First off, we have to assume that this is legitimate. It's certainly possible that it's like trolling or some other malice coming into play here, but I've watched this whole run and I don't see anything that could possibly cause this. The only other question at play then is, how did this actually happen? Like, just try to get into this person's brain, understand how this entire key unfolded, and then this occurred.
Frontal. Move. Add. Frontal. Move.
Strange. It's really, really beyond strange. Like, doesn't make any sense at all. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think happens here. I'm going to show you a little bit more of this key, but before I do, like, this really speaks to a lot of the problems that are going on in this game's pugging community in general, because regardless of what happens, this guy just spent 20 some minutes in this dungeon and then, for whatever reason, decides it's not worth his time to finish. I don't know what he sees on his screen, but what I'm seeing is that they have an easy upgrade. Looks like a double upgrade coming up here. I guess he doesn't see that, or somehow doesn't realize, like, none of it makes any sense. Like, how could you possibly think it's a 0? People are dying and the damage of the enemies that's coming out, like, he's the healer. And even if you did, like, why would you leave? You're done, the fight's over. But there's a little bit more to it that I want to show you. I think the interesting part is what actually happens here, because the spikes spawn in a normal spot. The tank doesn't necessarily do anything wrong here. I mean, it's a 12. You wouldn't expect him to do it perfectly, but you can control where that ad spawns, and that helps a lot. But then the stuff just breaks on its own, and I really don't understand that. I guess the bigger question is, like, what's with the boss standing in the middle of the room thing? I don't really get it. I'm not very good at taking this fight myself. I've seen a lot of different people suggest a lot of different things, but he's just standing in the dead center of the room, and I mean, again, I don't see anything actually wrong here. Somehow the rocks get broken without him actually facing it at him. But then I think the bigger issue is that, like, the guy dies, and I don't think the healer actually understands what happens here. So yeah, that's confusing on its own. But then obviously you've seen this. He just kind of, I really don't. This doesn't make any sense to me, and it makes me wonder, like, what the legitimacy of this is. But we have to assume that it is a legitimate reaction to something, and that to actually leave in the middle of the fight, it's like, wow. I mean, I guess he left like right as it started. But if you watch his taskbar, it's really funny to watch. You can see him. He's trying to hearth right now, but he gets the mechanic on him, and now the ad's out, which again, the ad is being taken to the pillar, so he's just taking a bunch of damage. You see him down there actually trying to heal himself so he could hearth. I mean, that alone is kind of confusing, right? Like, the exit's right over here, or, you know, you could just die. Like, it's at the end of the world. I don't understand why you leave. I don't understand how you think it's a 0. I don't know how you thought it's a 0 now, but you didn't think it was a 0 throughout the whole dungeon. I can't understand it. Maybe he reloads and it's bugged out. I would love to hear some explanation from you guys what you think happens here, or perhaps even this guy gets in contact with me and explains his point of view, because obviously this This is despicable looking. It looks ridiculous. And even if you did think it was a 0, why would you ever leave? That's so freaking rude. You just did the whole 20 some minute dungeon, had no complaints seemingly. I want to look through like the actual dungeon as well, just for you guys. Like he says that, he says, you know, second, ready, whatever, time to move. Other than that, like I don't see a single thing actually get said by anybody. They have a death and early on and that's it. And there's only 3 deaths, you know what I mean? This is the only like mildly contentious thing that happens. Is really not even a thing. And honestly, I'm not sure I would even really blame the tank for this. So the tank's tanking him in a kind of a weird spot, and the frontal is going to end up hitting the warlock here. So it's going to put that massive dot on the warlock. Obviously, as the tank, that's your job to make sure you're not facing it at the group. The warlock really should not be stood there either way. You see where the tank's facing it, but he's going to kind of do it again, and this time it's going to hit even more people. He's kind of just like running around in circles. So that's like the only like mildly contentious thing that happens, because then they kind of start talking about it. He said, you know, the guy who ends up leaving just says tisk, TSK out of, and then, you know, the guy who recorded this says probably don't want to aim frontals at others. So, okay, we have our other 2 deaths on this encounter. It's a pretty hard fight, frankly. I get it, but whatever, 2 deaths here. That's it. No comments made. Nothing gets said at all. No words exchanged in the key. Nothing, any type of argument. Last boss, the first time anybody really has any actual commentary on anything, and then the guy says it has no key number, which again, I am not sure I will ever understand that. So here we go, video's over. Now it's time to leave a comment. Please leave your comments on what you think is going through this guy's head, what you think could have possibly happened here. Try to be fair, you know. I think obviously like leaving in this situation, regardless of what happens, like even if this is the wrong key level, even if it's a group that you believe you didn't sign up for, you made the mistake of being in it, you joined it, you've been in it for over 20 minutes. Even if you feel like somebody tricked you into joining and doing all of this, it is so insanely rude to leave right now at the last boss. I have to say, like, the title of the most confused player I have seen in any key submitted to me or done on this channel in this season has to go to this fella, because it's really, I can't come up with any legitimate reason that any of this would have happened. Let me know what you guys think. If you're out there running keys, especially lower keys, and hilarity is ensuing, please record it and send it to me. We've had some absolutely amazing submissions, some of the best and funniest things I've seen in a long time. So as I was saying in season 1, we're on the search for the funniest key. What do you think it is? Maybe it's still to come. Here we go. Thank you for watching. We will see you guys in the next video.